It is an instance of the whole universe co-creating itself in and through the uniqueness of you. That's what you can get to if you rephrase what a lot of people are saying about the findings of quantum mechanics. One electron is actually entangled with the whole business. Well, if the electron is, so is every atom, molecule, cell, and you. But we have no way of recognizing that. So we only see the package in space and time. And the not conscious, but we know we're not being responded to in our fullness, and we shrivel to fit in. That's the message. We'll love you, we'll take care of you, you'll be fine, and we'll teach you how to fit in. That's where everybody is. A cog in the wheel, learning how to play the game so you get yours. Not each of us as remarkable and magnificent a divine cosmic being as anybody who ever walked this earth. That's who we are.
Welcome to the Defining Moments podcast, where leaders, innovators, and everyday heroes share the moments that changed everything. These are the stories behind resilience, purpose, and legacy. Now, let's dive into today's defining moment.
Hi, everyone. I'm Melanie Warner, the founder of Defining Moments. Welcome to today's episode. Today's guest has spent over 4 decades pioneering trauma treatment. He's a Harvard High Honors graduate, a Vietnam veteran, a clinical psychologist, and part of the first national study that helped identify PTSD and put it on the map in the United States. But after decades of being known as a leader in trauma healing, he discovered something that his entire professional identity shifted. He found that up to 90% of earliest trauma may still remain untouched, not because people are broken, because we've been asking a wounded self to fix itself. So that sounds like common sense. But today we talk about what happens when the healer realizes the healing hasn't gone deep enough and what it means to truly heal all the way down and all the way up. Please welcome to the show, Dr. Artie Vipperla. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're so welcome, and I'm delighted to be here with you, Melanie. Melanie is also the publisher of my book and a great soul who I've been in touch with now for the last few years.
Oh, thank you so much, Artie. You are, I would say, and I don't say this about a lot of people, but I would say you're one of my favorite people on the planet because I think you have such a huge heart for wanting to help heal people. And you just show up in these ways that, I know they're not random. Like sometimes you'll just pop in my inbox and say, "Hey, I'm just letting you know I'm reading this about you and I'm reading this energy about you." And you just know what's going on. And
Yeah, and the
it's
other reason she
uncanny.
likes me, I'm psychic, and I'm able to pick up what most people can't, how honest, good, true, and caring and competent this woman is and
Oh,
dedicated. Yes.
thank you.
And I
Thank
also picked up when she was not adhering to her optimal diet, and I called her on it. She got back on board.
That's so true. I mean, and there were things that I went to so many different doctors and they were trying to diagnose all these other things and make me get on all this medication and I wasn't feeling like, no, I don't want to be addicted. I don't want to have to survive on taking a bunch of pills. And so you helped me with that. So thank you so much. Now, Artie, you are already respected in your field. Okay, Harvard, clinical psychology, national PTSD research, a Vietnam veteran. You had nothing to prove. So what made you question everything?
Well, after those, actually, it was in the middle of my fifth decade, post-Vietnam War search to serve peace, that I had been doing also meditation and yoga and energy healing, breath work, body work, and prayer, 12-step programs, everything, all kinds of things. And my hand got sensitive enough I could read energy psychically. I could look at somebody and I could see where their blood sugar was and all kinds of other things, and also how honest they were and all the different chakras. Oh, that's good. I can read everything psychically. Oh, well, how about reading my own work? How well am I doing on trauma? Am I reducing symptoms? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. How much? And I discovered I got interested. I'm a troublemaker, so that I just said, let's make a little trouble. How well am I doing on my own trauma healing? What? Skim the surface, 90% unhealed? I had to surprise myself. And Fortunately, I'm a fairly honest guy. I mean, I can spin a lie or two. I mean, I'm not a saint. But about that kind of stuff, I have some integrity. And I discovered that not just me, I checked my colleagues, all the people famous for being trauma healers and this and that and something else, and I discovered the whole field is missing the boat. And that's when I set out to find what will get all the way down there.
Wow. Now, you said for decades that trauma treatment has only skimmed the surface. That's a pretty
The
bold claim.
decades since Freud.
So
Freud,
you're saying this is the greatest discovery in human health and healing in the last 100 years, since Freud at least. What did you see that others weren't seeing?
I could pick up. It's not that I saw things in the usual sense of seeing signs and symptoms that are usually focused on by doctors and psychiatrists and so on. I could see how much trauma did they have before, how much trauma they have now, how much has it been reduced, what percentage of it, and I had various ways to cross-check the finding that the treatment they had, oh, did it reduce symptoms? Yes. How many? 5, 10. Wonderful. Very good. Was the research significant statistically? Yes. But how much trauma energy was actually reduced? And I could pick it up. Usually no more than 4 or 5%, sometimes 8 or 9. And so, what I was able to get to from having become psychic enough through all these decades of higher practices and the curiosity to check was a way of reading not just signs and symptoms, but the underlying energetic condition of the person. That's what's crucial. And I could then check how much, to what degree does this underlying unhealed trauma affect people now? I could find out 10, 20, 30, 40, almost 80, 90, 100%. And to what degree does it affect health? You know, the standard, the new Surgeon General of the United States, Dr. Casey Means, she was the top of her Stanford School of Medicine. She's a real truth teller, and she tells the truth that chronic disease is about diet and stress. But the stress she focuses on are the things that you can diagnose with signs and symptoms. How much has she healed through underlying stress? 10%. It's
Wow.
because there's a whole other layer of this that I didn't even see until I began giving free energy readings. And when COVID came out and they all said, oh, yeah, all you have to do is social distance and wear a mask and wash your hands. And I said, what? They're, they're, they're closing the gyms and keeping the liquor stores open. There's a scam going on here. And the people like me who were giving free advice to improve your health were called misinformation. What? I started giving misinformation for free every Friday, Facebook page, yeah. and
So,
and reading people's auras. And that's when I found that even the people who were doing the practice I discovered that does heal all the way, there was still some underlying there was still some underlying trauma unhealed. What is it? And I eventually traced it back to infancy. The first year of life is the greatest trauma for most people. And how do I show that? I can do it with Melanie. Her her stature energetically at birth, let's just say, or set it arbitrarily here. Where was her stature at 1 year? This. She has a father who's a minister. He's a very holy man. But what happened in that year? She shrank. That's the pandemic. That's a true pandemic. That shriveling the first year of life. To what degree is that initial shriveling? We haven't done a whole lot of work together yet. So, okay. To what
yeah,
degree
this
is
is
that?
all new. This is all new stuff. Like
Yes.
I've known what you've done, but this whole conversation is brand new, even since you wrote your book. And just for the record, my dad, when I was born, my dad was teaching. He's an attorney. He was teaching Dale Carnegie classes and teaching Sunday school. And so it's funny because he's done so much for the community, and he's been such a solid like life force in my life, like a rock for me. So that's interesting to hear about because you
He's a
hear about
rock.
people that have this trauma the first year of life. with
What
parents.
is it that people don't see, respond to? It's what was never seen or respond to in themselves. Who are we ultimately? If I put the phrase together that's come to me to say sort of fluently, it seemed like, what? Divine, cosmic, uniquely invaluable. It's not just a cute little package inside a biomachinery run by the brain that you have to love and take care of. No, it's a divine cosmic being. It is, it is the, what's the word? It is an instance of the whole universe co-creating itself in and through the uniqueness of you. That's what you can get to if you rephrase what a lot of people are saying about the findings of quantum mechanics. One electron is actually entangled with the whole business. Well, if the electron is, so is every atom, molecule, cell, and you. But we have no way of recognizing that. So we only see the package in space and time. And the not conscious, but we know we're not being responded to in our fullness, and we shrivel to fit in. That's the message. We'll love you, we'll take care of you, you'll be fine, and we'll teach you how to fit in. That's where everybody is. A cog in the wheel, learning how to play the game so you get yours. Not each of us as remarkable and magnificent a divine cosmic being as anybody who ever walked this earth. That's who we are.
That's powerful. And I remember Wayne Dyer used to talk about if you really understood the power of who walks next to you every single day, you would never have fear or doubt again. And like that is so much part of who we are. And there's so much childhood trauma and childhood wounds in everybody, no matter how successful. And I think there are people that are successful and driven, maybe because they have some type of insecurity. Do you feel like there's some people that are secretly afraid of doing this type of work because they think it might affect their drive or ambition?
And that can all be mixed in, but everybody's a big mix. People who are ambitious and driven often have great talents, and there are also things they looked into in previous lives. And yeah, it's not all just a reaction to trauma, but the what has been missed in all this trauma is the initial shriveling that keeps everybody a lot less healthy than we need to be, that triggers every trigger at the bottom and reduces longevity. People ask,
And
how come people in the Bible could live on 900 years? But because they didn't walk around thinking that they were biomachines run by the brain. They knew they were walking embodiments of the divine presence. That's what we
that
need to
makes
get back
sense.
to.
And you're saying so much of this happens in that first year of life because of society pressure, limited beliefs, what's happening in the family, in the household
Yes.
when you're pregnant or, when your child is 1 year old. So now you have learned all of this over many, many years of experience and studying it. And I want to talk about a defining moment for you, which was your 67th birthday. You were already collecting Social Security. Most people at that stage are kind of winding down. They're like, "Hey, I'm just gonna like coast through life and see how much time I have left and be retired." But instead, you felt this calling to start this world-changing mission. You went from this type A personality to all of a sudden, it's like you started downloading these energy readings, I guess is the best way to say it. Tell us more about what happened that day.
My 67th birthday, I did everything I usually do. I meditate, I do yoga, I do energy healing, and then on the floor in the morning, and then I get up. And I got up and I start moving like this. I wasn't doing it. What was happening? All my joints were going, what, in circles? Semicircles? No, they were, I realized before long I was moving like this, like we learned to crawl, contralateral movements, but in slow mo. and breathing was moving me. And I had to do research and find out what are these semicircles all my joints are moving in. And I eventually found it's the path of energy through every energy field of figure eight. Why? Every energy field, every energy field is a cylinder, end to end with an infinitesimal hole, a fat bagel. Cut it down from the top and the middle, and you got two circles side by side. That's a figure eight. Now, what's it doing being a figure eight? Science has begun to catch up with profound wisdom. All is energy. There are no things. That's actually a finding by the founding insight of the great philosopher Whitehead's Process and Reality of 1929. There are no things. Things is a fiction. Everything is a dynamic expression of energy. And what does energy do? Only one thing, it creates. What is it create of? It's out of itself. How? By using itself. With what result? Into more of itself. Out of by means of into more of itself. And all the higher wisdom is expressed in these recursive and reflexive ways. As above, so below, whatever goes comes around. I am that I am. Giving is receiving. Why? Because it's all energetic self co-creating, and so are we.
So you call
And
that
what I
harmonizing, right? You call that harmonizing.
now I call it harmonizing all of you with all. When you go into the very beginning of this, unlike everything else, you don't do anything. To get that initial discovery out to other people, what I discovered is invite breathing to come as breathing once. Don't do it. Don't breath work. Don't automatic. Invite this breath and this breath and this breath. And you'll get into allowing and eventually welcoming and getting breathing, welcoming your welcome. And this is the communing you with breathing, your divine cosmic co-creating together with breathing, and you come home to who you truly are. That unleashes energy like nothing else.
You've said this practice helped you lose 35 pounds and rejuvenate your energy. What changed in a physiological way?
Anytime I had an urge to compensate by using food, I could remind myself, oh, invite breathing, allow, welcome, and then, oh, this feels good. I'm not so sure I need that food. In fact, I know what would be best. I'll feel even better if I pass up the carbohydrates, period, and then I can congratulate myself at the end of the day. Oh, another day. That's cool. And I did all this in my late 60s, early 70s. Oh, I I'm not going to show you my six pack, but I will show you I can do splits at 81.
At 81, you can still do
Yes,
splits
yes.
and a six pack. That's amazing. So,
Yeah.
what did it cost you to tell colleagues that their life's work was incomplete? I would imagine that probably went over like a wet blanket on the industry.
I I'm used to being a little unusual. Um, I'm used to being not exactly the most popular guy in the professional circles. When you come out of graduate school and you manage to get the National Council of Churches to help you lobby the U.S. Congress to do a study of Vietnam veterans, and when the funds are voted, the pilot group you organized is chosen, and your name is on the first study of PTSD, guess what? They don't invite you to join the faculty. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to know about you. So
So they
I was
just try
on,
to discredit you so
well,
that their
it's
ideas
more
aren't
ignoring.
challenged.
I was on a department, I was on the faculty of a department of psychiatry at a major medical school in New York City. I couldn't get an appointment with the head of the department because he was all about getting research on drugs into his department. And I I had the possibility of bringing $500,000 of overhead money into his department, and I couldn't get an appointment. So I had to leave and go someplace else. That's the
Mhm.
way it happened. So uh, I don't know, Melanie. You got a genius in this. Maybe you'll spread this around. Well, actually, here's the thing. It's not a coincidence that I'm talking to a woman who has done amazing work on herself, is highly enterprising, is curious, open, and is still learning. And she's into that period of life where women start to get bold, courageous, as well as beautiful and ripened. And that is indicative of what I've found. For the most part, the people who listen and hear me and say, oh, let me try that. Let me see. Oh, that feels great. Or women. Now, there are a few men who are exceptions. Sensitive guys, they're like me. You know, there are guys like me, but they're not a large number yet. They're mostly like you. Not that you're so common, but they have features in common with you and the women you'd be like, and the women who
So
buy
you
your
found that
books.
women seem to be more receptive to this
Im-
work of
Immensely.
inviting
E-
the breath as opposed to accepting
Exactly.
it.
Exactly.
Now, you said something that I think is so fascinating. You said we've been using a wounded self to fix itself. Explain
Yes.
that. Like, if we're not supposed to fix ourselves, and what are we supposed to do?
Well, then you step back. All the coaching industry, the therapy industry is about telling people what to fix or change. Beliefs, emotions, behaviors. Telling them what to change or inquiring into and finding out why do you think that? And let's get that more grown up. Let's get that more logical. Let's get that more advanced or adaptive. What I discovered is actually the ancient wisdom. The greatest power is effortlessness. That's called Wu Wei in Chinese. What is so powerful about Tai Chi and Qigong is that effortlessness. What every great performing artist knows is when you work at something, they really get it, really get it, really get it. But when you really play music, the music plays through you. It's called grace. It comes as a gift. But the healing professions have not focused on that. There are exceptions, of course. But what I discovered, having done an awful lot of work on myself, is that that way of inviting, allowing, and welcoming came to me naturally like a guided process. And then it came together with the ability to read energy. And wow, this is what reduces the trauma. I was moving like that the morning of my 67th birthday, and I could check energetically. This is reducing the trauma. Oh my goodness. And expanding the energy dramatically. And that's when I set out to learn how to teach this to people. And it begins most simply with inviting breathing to come. And then I discovered by inviting people, it goes up against all their training. Oh, I want to know what I have to do to fix myself. They don't use the word fix, but the whole orientation of coaching and change and growth and self-development is about self-engineering, as if you're a piece of tech to work on, rather than graciously inviting the divine cosmic being you are to enter in such a way that you can come more fully and commune and bring that into how you move and feel and overflow and come into a grounded experience that's renewed and direct and concrete of who you truly are.
So, how
That's what
if
I'm.
that movement in breath is so important, then can't people just do it on their own? Why do they
Of
need a
course.
guide to help
Heck,
them?
why do they need what?
Why do they need a guide to help them? deal with
Well,
their trauma or identify what that trauma is so that they can heal it. If they can just kind of breathe through it and move in that motion to bring
it's
that in. Like
it's
how do
like
they know
asking,
how do they know they're actually healed?
you see, Artie, why does someone who you give the hint to do something they've never done in their whole life, how come they don't just run with the ball and discover the way to deepen it and apply it and take it all through their lives? Well, there might be some who do, but I haven't run into any of them. Everybody has needed. Well, how do you do that exactly? And then what? And you say you commune with breathing, but then you bring it into having breathing move you. How does that work? And I show them and I guide them. And then how does that provide an antidote to all the materialist programming that your biomachinery run by the brain? You have to come into a directly sensed experience, head to toe, of living vibrance. And then how does this revise your concept of yourself? Well, why can't you just say, well, I'm spiritual. I'm divinity. You want to, that's just a head trip. It doesn't do anything. There's no new energy with it. How do you get into the fullness of that so that it's real? You have to discover the sense in which that vibrance is boundless, comes timeless instant by timeless instance. And this is who you are. And have that rehearsed enough so that you then come in to feel the energy and can begin to apply it retroactively to all the lived moments of your life. They're not just memories, they're not just thought forms, they're just not just muscle memories and all the things that the trauma industry has thought up as concepts to avoid dealing with the fact that everything in you is you. Everything that's still living in you are moments of your life that live on, including the first moment of your life and every moment during infancy. How do you reach into and commune so that you bring the shriveled moments that are like this into unfolding? Through patient, gentle, sensitive, communing with, where you don't fix change, you provide the retroactive nurturing that was never there when you first lived that moment. And then bit by bit, you unfold into the fullness of all of you coming together. Divine,
I have a
cosmic.
quote on my wall from Tennyson. It says, "I am a part of all that I have seen." That reminds me so much of that because we develop and cultivate these limited beliefs or just beliefs in general as we have life experiences and we go through. Some are conscious, most of them are subconscious. And when we do trauma work, it's usually about symptom reduction, right? So
Yes.
how should we be measuring this type of healing instead? And how do you measure it? Because I've seen you do healing, like your Friday healings, where you can literally see the difference in somebody's photo, just their photo or their face or their whole energy is shifted. How do you measure that?
Most directly by learning to do what I do, what I learned, which is to feel energy. You feel the energy in your hands. How much was it before? How much is it now? And you can do it, that's analogically, that's the quantity like that, but you can also do it digitally. What percentage had I healed before? 1, 2, 5%? How about now? 10, 20, 30, 40. It's not symptoms. It's not, we don't have electronic machinery yet that is sensitive enough that I know of. There may be some place, Russia has led in this research on what they call torsion, but I haven't been able to get to anybody who has that equipment yet. But from what I found out, they can't measure what happens to auras here. That my aura goes out many, 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 many miles. Normal aura goes out 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 feet. Yours is now 10, 20, 30, 40 feet. Mine's out thousands of miles. And that's what happens when people practice harmonizing on a daily basis. There's no way to measure that other than being able to tune into energy that I know of so far. And
So
anybody can learn
that's
to measure,
it. Oh, go ahead.
anybody, Anybody who's willing can learn energy healing. You feel in your hand, you feel here, and then you say, am I talking to Artie? And I got people go, oh, yes. Am I standing on my head? They go, oh, there's no energy there. No, it's like a version of muscle testing and pendulums, but more versatile and more versatile. Using
So
hand.
when you hear the term that person is out there, right? Like, do you think that that really is a deeper meaning of like that person is so far away, right? When you say like I'm 40 feet, you're thousands of miles away, like because of the work that you've done. Maybe there's
No,
people who don't understand the
well,
the
I, I
shift.
I think there could be many versions of out there. There could be someone who's a little bit lost their marbles and is off the wall, right? And it
But
could
no, but
also,
I'm saying there are people that think this is woo-woo stuff, right? Like
yeah,
there are
yeah,
people that are skeptical about this kind of work. And that's what I'm saying is like they may perceive somebody being out there being because they're so far removed from the levels of like of how we function in society today, how we just had this blind acceptance to things happening to us, right?
yeah. The difference might be more precisely captured as a matter of the degree to which you've entered into energetic sensitivity. Not so much far like distance in the usual 3D sense, but to what degree are you sensitive to registering and expanding into the energy realm, which colloquially in the New Age and the New Consciousness world is called 5D, five-dimensional. What? There's three dimensions of space, one of time, and then the fifth dimension is the ether. There are other dimensions. It's not the ultimate, but it is the point at which the earth, water, air, and fire then go into the life realm, just as we have one, two, three, four chakras, about four chakras down to the heart, and then the fifth is the solar plexus, that is the balancing, digesting energy that covers physical digestion, psychological boundaries, but also the entry into this fifth dimension of energy.
So, where do you see people that are high strung, high stress, high performers, like leaders, entrepreneurs? Where do you see them staying stuck longer than they need to be?
Well, ultimately, this is an individual matter. It's hard to say one thing about such a large group that's, a very, very mixed bag. But the general thing with successful people is they're stuck into doing what they already know. And what we already know in this culture is limited by the mainstream reality that people like me call materialism. It's the matter is the real thing. And we got physics and chemistry layered in, coagulated in biology, and then other layers on top. It's bottom up. And my colloquial expression for all that, it's all dumb. It is no intelligence, no intrinsic intelligence. It's numb, there's no feeling, and it's dead. When the ultimate wisdom in all the traditions is it doesn't come from the bottom up, it comes from the top down. The ultimate creating is divine. It's already alive, smart, boundlessly intelligent and living. That shift into ultimate reality is what hasn't yet been accomplished by the leading figures of the culture.
So,
That's one way to sum it up.
what's the greatest stressor contributing to chronic disease that people are ignoring today?
Underlying unhealed trauma from the first year of birth, there's the shriveling of their energy. And how does that show up in medical tests? High cortisol, inflammation, stress. And people say, well, you have high cortisol stress, so you got to relax more and not work so hard. That's usually also only skimming the surface. The underlying trauma dates from the first year of life. It's been there unconscious that medical, psychiatric, psychological diagnosticians don't know how to pick up yet. It's the first year of life. And it's operating on diminishing health. And people work on their triggers. Oh, I got to get better at handling that trigger. And they work on that trigger and they work on that trigger. But what makes you triggerable is the original insult that diminishes you into a thing to fit in. And you have to stop being who you ultimately, eternally are. You're an eternal soul passing through this life. That's the ultimate wisdom. How do you come into an experience of that so you're living as that, not having to compensate and pretend like you're not and everything else? That's the stress for the stresses. Having to pretend and fix yourself into a package that fits in,
I think
including high performers.
people, yeah, I think a lot of people respond out of fear mode, right? And I know, Gary Zukav is one of my mentors. He talks about that a lot, the difference between responding from the ego, which is fear-based, versus
Hmm.
responding from the soul that is love-based in those
Hmm.
decisions. You know,
Yes.
and talk about the soul is the part of us that lives forever. No matter what,
Hmm.
people have different religious beliefs, but most people believe we have a soul and that it is the wisest part of us. So when you can lean into that soul, the part that's already inside of you, it's not coming from an external validation. Like if we lean into that, that soul guides us through a lot of what you're talking about here, right? But so often we let fear drive that instead of the soul driving it, and the fear is the external part where we have to go to somebody else or we have to get validation from somebody about our own thought or how we're feeling about something. So,
So
what?
you just did a marvelous presentation of the standard enlightened story. There's the fear and there's the love. You have to lean into the love and the soul and see what is leaning into the love. How is it that you have to do a thing called leaning in rather than simply you are this love? You are this eternal, divine, all-encompassing and embracing coherence that we call love. How is that not yet concrete, immediate, directly experienced? That's the path that harmonizing helps people traverse. So it's not like an effort or a gesture you have to exercise or a a meme or a frame that you have to implement or somebody's instruction to apply. How do you live this truth?
So, what advice would you give to somebody who is wanting more curious about this or wanting to start? Like, what's the first small invitation that they could practice today?
Invite breathing to come as breathing once.
Invite breathing to come as breathing once. And what does that
Yeah.
look and sound like?
It doesn't look very much because it's all going on you with breathing, and it doesn't sound, but it's you setting aside everything you know how to do and or do automatically and pause to open. And everything you know about yourself, you set aside for a moment so that none of your identities are engaged in this. You who open, like when someone knocks at the door and you open it, and then you step aside to let them come in. When they come all the way in, you open your arms and you welcome. You do that with breathing. You invite, allow, welcome. And that can feel like this. You can squeeze yourself like a turtle all the way down, every little muscle contracted. And then you open up like a peacock like this. Ah, and then you come back and notice, oh, you feel a little more energized, a little bit more relaxed, a little more open. This. Now bring that into breathing. invite this breath, this breath, this breath. And notice before long, you'll not only allow, but you'll notice breathing gets a little easier, gentler, smoother. And although breathing doesn't say or do anything, you notice it's not just a bunch of physiology that's going on there. There's high intelligence in breathing that knows and feels how to bring life into you and has the power to pull that off and goes like this in effect. Oh, you're welcoming me. How cool. I'll welcome that welcome. And you get a very subtle experience of communing. Like if we did communing, eye gazing, Melanie, we'd look at each other and we'd see some things about each other's face, and then we'd soften and we'd feel, I'm seeing that you're seeing. And then we see, I see you're seeing of my seeing. Oh, contact, intimacy, communing. And we recognize that that communing is blessed. And that's the enacting of what's said in the Bible, in the Hebrew Bible and in the Greek Bible. In the Hebrew Bible, it's wherever I cause my name to be mentioned, I'll come among you and bless you. Or Jesus saying, when two or three are gathered together in my name, I will be there. The connecting is blessing. And it happens not just with another person, but connecting with breathing. And you get the blessedness coming in, that you can then bring all through you. Not a frame, not a thought, not an instruction, not a bit of engineering, a direct, immediate experience. You're
Okay.
asking good questions, Melanie. You're really, we're really pulling it out of me.
That's good. Um, where would you say, like, who would you say is your greatest influence on your life? Like, what made you, who would you say is responsible for the man that you've become today the most?
I don't have a one person. I have I have a series of mentors who have been quite significant, and each is unique. And I've had a most recent um, appearance in my sensorium that is the most of the most, and I realize has been there all along. So rather than talk about guys, why don't I just talk about this one? Woo! Okay, you think that before was woo woo? Where do you hear this shit? Okay. So ever since I learned how to use my hand in pranic healing to check something like yes or no, and I did a process where I I focused on negative energy and I felt it like this. And then I did a process to remove it, and I noticed afterwards, oh, it was reduced. Am I really getting this accurately? And I asked, and I got a yes. And then I turned and said, is this you? Higher you? And I got a yes. Is this divine? Yes. Does this mean I'll never be alone? I can do this anytime I want? Yes. And I cried for 3 hours. That, I guess, your question brought me to focus on this because what's happened in the 16 years since I've been able to do this is I've more and more frequently practiced and taught and guided people to harmonize so you get really clear and then you can turn to ask higher knowing what's going to be really good here now with this and listen for an inspiration or I have an idea about doing XYZ. Is it how good is that? 10, 20%? Okay. Is there something else that would be better? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Keep searching. Okay. And have a dialogue with higher knowing. I've been doing that for 16 years and teaching that all over the place and demonstrating free on Facebook every Friday and on and on and on and on. I put it in my book and I've got all kinds of videotapes.
I
What
remember the
happened?
first time I talked to you, you did this when you were deciding whether you were going to work with our company to do your book. And it's
Yes,
funny because your college roommate was Jack Canfield, right? From Chicken Soup for the Soul. That's another little bit of trivia that people may not know about you.
yes,
And you're like,
yes.
I know a bunch of people in that book space.
Yeah, yeah.
And I
Jack
remember you
Canfield,
measuring that.
10%. And you, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. That's no brainer. I go with Melanie. Hands down. Yeah, hell with Jack. I don't care how much more famous he is. Here's
Oh,
what
that's
happened.
funny.
Here's what happened recently. I turned to ask higher knowing something, and I hear, yes, Artie. Yes, you got it right. And I had to ask, are you talking to me? Oh, you catch on? You can hear me now? Holy shit. This is a life changer, right? It just might be, Artie. Take it in. You're finally ready to hear and feel. Are you always going to be with me anytime I want? I always have been, haven't I? But now I can be even more fully with you. And I noticed you've always been here all along. Yeah, Artie, you got that right a long time ago when you realized you were guided. Anytime I want, I can turn to you, feel this closeness, this depth that you're in me, you are me, you fill me. Yes, Artie, and you know what else? I'm in everyone else, only they haven't caught on as much yet. You might have to clue them in. Holy shit, I guess so, yeah. You're in everyone. You're the oneness in everyone. Everyone who says I am means you, right? Yeah, Artie. Anybody who says I am means me. Okay. Ah, so the greatest influence on being the man I am, that's you. Duh, Artie. Duh.
So, Artie, as we start wrapping up our time together here today, is there something that
We have to stop? Really? We have
I
to
know.
stop?
Is
Oh,
there
okay. This is so much fun, Melanie. You're a gas. Go ahead.
is there something I haven't asked you? Is there something else that you want to share with our audience
Get
today?
my book. Go to my website, healyourdeepesttrauma.com. Get my book, get my guiding video, and start to practice. And then look me up if it feels right. You can tell I'm very accessible. I have things that are free. I have things that cost money. You want to go a long distance. I have mentors, and I'm pretty good at mentoring. Okay, I get behind you. You'll be you'll go someplace. So start with my book, $12. Okay. Discounted. On Amazon, it's 18 for a paperback. I sell it for $12 that I read into video. So you get my face and sound and the vibe and the scrolling text. It can't be beat.
So you came home from Vietnam wanting to help create a world culture of peace. At 67, you realized that mission wasn't just a fantasy, it was guidance. Like, what were you pretending not to know before that moment?
That I've been guided from the beginning. I didn't think up this idea. This is like my heritage of multiple lifetimes. There's a guiding word that is the ultimate word in the prayers of my people. May God bless you and keep you. May God bring the light of his or her face to shine on you. May God turn his face to you and bring you peace. This has been in my soul for thousands of years.
Wow. Thank you so much. Now, I just have one last question. This energy that you feel, this voice, this wisdom that you feel when you talk about God and peace, do you feel that this is God working through people as a higher self, higher being, or do you feel like, it's a different entity or energy? Like, how would you describe it?
Well, with allowance for there can be all kinds of complications and confusions and complicated, shadowy beings. Overall, yes. Ultimately, we're one human family under one ultimate mystery, creating ultimately to the ultimate coherence that holds it all together that we call love. Yes.
So, what I'm hearing is that healing isn't about fixing what's broken. I think that's what gives people hope in this conversation. It's about inviting what was already and always whole inside of us.
Exactly. Wonderful.
And
Yes.
that changes everything. So,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you for being so willing to question your own profession, to question your mentors, your guides, and question yourself, to come to this conclusion, even at 67, to start understanding that there's a deeper level of how we can heal that's in a different realm than what we're seeing physically and metaphysically. So I want to thank you for being here today, for spending your time with us. And I encourage you to start with either getting the book, or going to one of these readings that Artie does. Are you still doing those on Facebook?
I do the free energy readings every Friday at noon Eastern time on Facebook until I get overwhelmed.
Okay, I'm going to put that link in here. So if you guys want
Great.
to come and meet Artie and go try it
Yeah,
out,
yeah.
take a test drive, like I encourage
Great.
you because you learn a
Great.
lot about yourself, but be careful what you ask for because Artie does not have a filter and he will just tell you he does not filter whatever that message that comes. He doesn't stop and think about it and translate it. He doesn't filter it. It's like it's whether you're like it's full truth. So you have to be prepared for that too. It may not be what you want to hear. So, but he's always going to give you his truth that he's receiving for you. And I think that takes a special person to be able to be that conduit, that guide for people. So thank you for your heart and your commitment to that as well.
So welcome, Super Melanie. A joy to be able to play with you and celebrate in a party like this. How great.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
having me on.
Now,
Enjoy.
before we wrap up, I just have to share we have a special mystery story that we do at the end of every single episode. And this one is perfect for what we're talking about here today. So just to set up the story, there was a young doctor who idolized the father of modern psychology, which is Sigmund Freud. He admired his brilliance. He studied his theories. He defended him publicly. The older mentor believed that human suffering could be traced to buried childhood conflicts, often rooted in repression. The younger doctor agreed at first. They traveled together, they lectured together, they broke bread together, they built an entire movement together, but something began to trouble him in his patience and in himself. He noticed that uncovering repressed memories don't always heal the person. And yet, insight brought awareness. But awareness didn't always bring wholeness. And he began to sense that the psyche was more than just trauma, more than repression, more than pathology. He saw something deeper, something spiritual, archetypal, ancient. The older mentor warned him if you move in that direction, you're going to lose credibility for everybody in the world and all the work that you've worked hard for everything that you're doing. But the younger doctor couldn't ignore what he was seeing. And he began having these vivid dreams, these inner visions and encounters with symbols that felt older than his own lifetime. And it was destabilizing. Colleagues whispered. His mentor cut ties completely. He lost his professional alliance and all credibility, and he nearly lost his reputation. For years, he withdrew. He studied mythology, religion, symbols, the unconscious, not as a storage vault of wounds, but as a living, evolving force. And he concluded something radical. The goal of healing was not simply to analyze what was broken, it was to integrate the entire whole self, shadow included. He called it individuation, the journey toward wholeness. The man who dared to evolve behind his mentor. Now you know the defining moment of Carl Jung, Jung, Carl Jung, right? His defining moment wasn't rejecting Freud. It was realizing that healing wasn't just about digging into old wounds. It was about becoming whole. And so that at the time was such profound wisdom. It was something so unique and different. And so sometimes, like what Artie is saying, we've been trying to fix a wounded self, and Jung said we must integrate the whole self. And so I couldn't think of a better story to end with today as two great men on the planet who have challenged their mentors, challenged common beliefs, discovered a whole new evolutionary way of healing, and are sharing that with the world. So thank you, Artie, for your gift of just being you and always being present and always being real in how you see things and how you say things. And we here appreciate everything you do and just wish you the best of luck as you move forward with all of your work, and know that you're going to be inspiring so many people. So thank you again for being here. And thank you all. Thank you all for being here as well. And we can't wait to see you next time. So take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Blessings to all.
Thanks for listening to the Defining Moments podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.